Hey, good
Hey,
morning.
John. Good morning. Good morning. What's happening? It's been a while, man. Bloody
Yeah.
hell.
Love your place there. I love your place.
Yeah, man. This is sort of the latest sort of studio. As you know, it's evolved over time.
Yeah.
And this is the latest one. So I'm still working on another proper studio in the house where I want to get, like I said, proper bookshelves, get it set up properly. But this is the current setup so far. Because online, this is easy. You can create a backdrop like this. Online, it's easy. Let me get my other light on. There you go. There you go. Get some more light in there. That's it. How's
Very
that?
good. Oh, I'm
Just
gonna try and hit I'm just kind of learning with recording these. I don't know that Zoom's the best option, but at least it's like working. I paid for the little option to record and save the recordings, download them. The
no, Zoom's
picture
good because
hasn't
look,
been that good. I'm gonna try and
no,
find
look,
the
Zoom.
HD option. I did a little bit of research and I saw that I can do I guess there's like an HD set video settings. Here we go. See if it mirror my video. Let's see what the difference is. HD. Oh, that's much better.
Yeah, yeah, yours is much better.
Whoa.
Yeah,
Okay. First
yeah,
time.
that's a lot clearer.
Yeah, I'm learning new with each new time around and I'll just keep improving. Right now, I didn't mention it on any of the other interviews, and we haven't really start this one yet, maybe, but my camera on my computer up here is
Mm-hmm.
it's got a crack across the glass. So well, it's nice that Zoom just kind of connects right to my phone, but
No, you look good. Your picture's pretty good. I mean, you say that you
it's
look
with the
pretty
yeah, this
good.
is through the iPhone 17, so it's like it
It's
connect
nice, nice,
came out
nice.
much better. This I had to study on
No,
something
no,
to find that. So we got an HD option, so that works.
no, no. Yours is listen. Your angle there, the bookshelf behind you. You got your board onto your left. It looks bang on. It looks good, man. Your
Yeah, my
position
kid
is all right.
kid drew some Gabby's dollhouse. I think she tried to say Hello Kitty, but it kind of looks like the Gabby's dollhouse too. We got the whiteboard in here, and yeah,
That's
this
gonna
is
look
the
good,
little
nice and
office. We got some of my other books and stuff over here on this side, and we're just filling up books everywhere. I can't stop going to a place called Goodwill and spending 49 cents for soft covers and 99 cents for hard covers. It costs like nothing. I walk through
yeah,
the
man.
aisles
Books
with
are
books up
important.
to here. Can't stop getting
Listen, that's good, man. You know, like that. See, when I was a kid, I wish there was someone like that around me who introduced books and introduced reading. We didn't. I mean, I'm learning now, bro. We're learning this. I'm learning this stuff now. If someone, imagine I was reading, I say to myself now, imagine I was reading these books when I was 18, 19, 20. What would I sound like now? Where would I be now if I was reading back then? You with me?
Yeah.
So listen, man, the book culture with your kids, keep it alive, man. That is the future. That is it. You're doing really important work there with that, you know. So keep on it, man. I love it. I love the bookshelf. I'm building my own. As you can see, I am building my selection slowly and getting through them because I'm not a good reader as such. So, but I'm getting through it now. I've set myself a target, 2 books a month now. This year, that's my target. That's what I'm
Yeah,
doing now.
totally
So,
doable. I'm really not that great of a reader myself. It's just you look at all these books and you think I'll never have enough time in my life to read that much, but time almost time almost disappears when you just sit down and read and you figure out, man, I've read half a book today. I can't believe it,
yeah,
and
yeah.
time really doesn't matter. If you just sit down and start reading anything, I spend more time picking the next book sometimes than I do sitting down to read. And
Yeah, I
I love
think for
it.
me, no, it's good. So what I've done is I've got a strategy now. So if even if I hit consistent 20 minutes a day, if it's 15 minutes solid, 20 minutes, and I think, bang, I've knocked out 20 pages. The key is just sit down, focus, and start to have that dedicated time. But this is what I'm saying, when you structure these little things in your life, then it starts compounding. So, like I said, even if you say, I'm doing 3 pages a day, but you stick to it, that could take you 5 minutes. That's all it is. But you just stick to it consistently. And then all of these things now over time, everything compounds. The growth compounds, your speed, your vocabulary speed, your reading speed will improve. And then your ability to digest the information. That's the next part. So I think the key is setting up the structures and systems to make it fail safe. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's the key. It's creating the systems and structures so you don't fail. Make failure impossible. Simple.
I just got to keep all this in our interview. I think this is helpful though. That's beautiful to hear that too, because people need to hear uh just the little habits of picking up reading. One of the ideas I thought, as far as it's one thing to even think about the stuff we're going through all the time, and especially I know you are just the same as well. It's very difficult, but when we find time, exercise, eat healthy. You've been going to jujitsu and training like a madman and having so much fun, and I see smiles there. And you're
Yeah, that is fun.
committed to trying to read a couple books a month. And one of the things I thought about is some kind of like a book club with I used to do with American Fathers. I used to post everything on one page and I kind of
Mm,
split it up a little bit. So the
mm.
Locust Honey books, I want to encourage as it grows, just kind of starting right now for maybe fathers to come hang out and we'll go for probably personal development type books to
Yeah,
increase,
yeah. Yeah,
our
see,
outlook.
yeah. Yeah, what it is, see, you've just touched on it, so we'll quickly talk about it before we start. Because look,
Yeah.
we can't talk about stuff that we've gone through and where we are and not talk about self-improvement. Like, because one sense, everything I've learned, and we'll touch on all of this now. We got time. Like, so I've got a solid 2 hour run here, so we can
Sure.
go chop it up into a couple of episodes, do what we need to do. We'll try and cover everything we can. Yeah? Because one thing I've learned on this journey, now people go through different types of pain and trauma and trials and tribulations. Yeah. Um, and ultimately, one thing that I've learned across everything in the last verse, from the moment that we've met, right, 4 years ago now, we're talking, from where we were to where we are, all roads lead to self improvement. Everything. Doesn't matter what path you came from in life, what route you took to get here, something in your life, the results of your life have delivered you in this circumstance and scenario where you're not happy, you're in pain, you're in trauma. And that is a moment you wake up. The societal programming then comes off. The what do you call this name for it? Rose tinted glasses fall off, and you think, wow. And then you realize, I need to do something to change these results. I need to change. If I'm not happy with these results, what do I need to do to get better results in my life? Like I said, divorce, family court, all of this. I mean, when you're going through that pain and trauma, those who have endured it, they understand. You sit there and you put these thoughts when you're laying, on your own, just the thoughts in your head between you and God, and you think, why? Why my children? How could this happen to me? And at some point, you have to accept that there's some element of accountability where maybe I was a people pleaser. Maybe I didn't work enough on myself. Maybe I didn't have healthy boundaries. However you want to look at it, don't say I was a nice guy and I got taken advantage of. Why were you a nice guy? Why were you saying yes to everyone? Why did you nod along? Then you can highlight that maybe the person that I am, the character traits that I had, maybe they weren't enough. Maybe the programming was wrong. But if I want the result to change, I need to change this because this ain't working. However you look at this, you and me. So all roads lead to self-improvement. And this is not just like, it's not bad. This could be an opportunity for your greatest growth, for a greatest comeback. This could be an opportunity for you to truly find out who you are, what you're capable of, how much potential that was locked within you because of the societal programming, the environment, the people, the news, media, social media. All of this clouds the ideas and the potential, and you're operating on this automatic program where you don't even know what you're doing and why you're doing it half the time. And Tony Robbins says it in his book, right? Awaken the Giant Within. First page, first chapter, the big question. Why do we do what we do? Why do any of us do what we do? That's the ultimate question. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah. And look at your vocabulary and your words and your energy in your face, in your voice after this time. And we met 4 years ago through Instagram, and I think pretty much both of us were just getting started, and it was I think the end of your first year, running into the brick wall that you did just like I did. And the development is incredible. And it goes through both of us, I think, having nowhere to live for a long time, going from place to place or being in our vehicle, uh, trying to share thoughts in some of those moments. And then coming to where you are now is so important to everything you just said for our fathers to say and understand, realize that this could be the greatest personal development change and turnaround in my life ever to put me on the greatest path I've ever begun. And it is.
Yes.
I was talking to my wife last night. Um, and it hurts to go through this stuff, right? But I said the fact that man,
Take your time, bro. Take your time.
the
Take your time.
it's so good. The fact that I've been through it allows allows other men and it allows these other fathers, and we know there's some others out there too, to relate.
Yeah.
I just
Yeah.
talked to even just David the other day from Sweden.
Yes.
I can make an immediate connection to someone who's going through
Yes.
so much pain to say, man, 400 days, it's forever, right? And
Yeah. Yeah.
I've been missing my child for 7 years. And it hurts so much, but I'm actually grateful for so much of it because I'm like, I can make so much impact and really relate to people.
Mm.
I'm on the same level, like, hey man, I understand it, you know?
Yeah.
And,
Because you've got the emotional, you are united. We are united in our pain ultimately. And
yeah,
we have the emotional awareness. And when you talk to a man, you look in his eyes, you can see into his heart, and you can feel what he's feeling. We know this. We know this. We know this path, and we know this journey. And this is what I tell fathers that then come on to support other fathers: empathy. Have empathy, because even within the father space, I see such a lack of empathy. And I've had to say to other fathers before, when a guy's going off and just letting things off his chest, doesn't matter if it sounds silly, just listen to him, comfort him. If this gives him some solace and hope, that's what you need to do. Give him that, because that's what might get him through that day, that hour, that 24 hours. That's what might keep him alive. And I tell people, empathy, man, never forget this. Have that in your heart, true empathy for another human being that's going through this turmoil. So yeah, I totally get it. But John, like I said, we've not really had a chance. I mean, the few times we did try and connect the time difference, where the Matrix attack was on Instagram. We were meant to do a live. Instagram shut down that day, that moment. Instagram shut down in the UK. I don't know what happened. We've never really got it together. So look, I want to really make the most of sorry, mixing my words and make the most of this opportunity, right? So I mean, if you want, like I said, tell me a bit about, like I said, I know snippets of your journey. You used to live out of I think your Toyota Prius or something. You used to go to the gym and shower, and you literally survived off grid like myself for many years. And even then, you were training and you were building your body. You were in great shape, and you sort of, really made it back from that. And obviously, and you're a young man as well when you were going through that. So tell me a bit about your journey, like just so I've got it in order in my head, because I know snippets of it, but I've never known the full entirety of it.
yeah. And it might have been nice to have a Prius at some points. I could have plugged it in and not paid for this California gas
Ah,
prices out here.
oh
But I
bloody hell,
was
yeah.
grateful. I had just so happened to have what was a Ford Explorer. I think it was like a 1998. So it's a little SUV kind of a type where you can put the back seats down and there's your lumpy bed, and then I had
How long ago was that? So how long ago was that now?
so in my journey, I've actually been going through this. I had my first child in 2009.
Mm-hmm.
My oldest child, who I went through all of this with,
Hmm.
Is almost an adult, just a year away. She's gonna be 17 in a couple of months, and then she'll be, so 1 year till being a grown adult here in the United States. And
Hmm.
I'm in the United States. I'm in California. I had my
Hmm.
child. I was 20 years old in 2009, and
Young man.
her mother and I had been together for 1 year before that. We had been together for about 3 months, and pregnant. I had already had friends in high school, and I will try to keep, a brief summary, but I had already had friends in high school that had two of them had kids before we graduated. So it's letting
Mm.
you know, and going back to accountability, um, pay attention to what's going on around you, because you're going to end up could be in the same sphere.
Absolutely.
And
Mm.
so when that's what I was around, two of them had children before we graduated high school. And just about a year later, mine was on the way. Okay, so patterns exist out there. You got to pay attention.
Mm.
And we were together for 3 months, pregnant, and was together throughout the pregnancy. And we lived together. I was very involved. I was excited. I thought this switch comes to your mind like, "Oh, I have a child on the way. I'm doing everything." Even back then, I,
Mm.
I still had some books around. I was like, I'm reading every book. I'm getting my career in line. I want the best for us. And we never got married. Um, and we were
You were
together
happy,
for
right?
about
You were happy. You
oh
were so happy with it at the time. You were looking forward to it. You were happy.
yeah.
I presume you had sort of dreams of family, living together, raising a
Yeah.
family sort of thing.
Um, and we were together for about 3 years total. So right before our daughter turned 2 years old,
Hmm.
about 2 months before our daughter turned 2 years old was when we split apart. But before
Hmm.
that, there had already been maybe three instances where like police or law enforcement was called. And family court was already brought up, but how did it come into the mental space in our relationship at all? One thing I did not learn and realize, in my wife now, is the beautiful part about women who are in the right headspace. They do have intuition and things that help you look at, and they are a great partner.
Hmm.
And when they're in the right space, just like
Hmm.
us,
They can
they just
elevate your
help me
energy.
kind of look
Yeah.
back and understand things. And man, it was my mother was a key poisonous part of our relationship. And so I was a young guy. I wanted to include my mother, and
Mm.
I wanted her to be there, be around us, be involved. I did not understand. See, this is, generations, and I had no idea my mother is and has been one of these dangerous narcissist women. I didn't want to accept that. I had plenty of red flags I could have looked at since
You
childhood.
can't, as yeah, see, because it's your mother, you never see her in that light. What happens is, like I said, women are ultimately enemies of each other and they're competing for male resources, attention, and support. So, mum looked at her potentially and felt insecure and threatened. That's my sort. You understand the mindset, the subconscious programming. So, mum's looking at her soldier being taken. The general's looking, thinking, my soul, I've lost a soldier here. I need to claw power over the soldier. And that's the age-old issue between mother-in-laws and daughter-in-laws. It's been happening since millennia.
And
Can you
listen to
see the
this
problem?
twist. Yeah, listen to this twist, because I hear that dynamic a lot, and it is true, and it becomes a problem in so many marriages. However, in mine, and I'm still trying to observe it. I'm listening to, professionals and stuff. There's some great Instagram accounts talking about this psychology. She was not trying to save her son or protect her son. She wanted me out. She was against me. So when I started questioning things in this relationship, even though we were very young, I was dedicated. I had no plans of splitting, and I did not know that when my mother came to see us when our child was born, that she was immediately a bad influence to my child's mother. Um,
Hey.
encouraging her to split from me, encouraging her and offering her support to do it. Now, what can I look back on myself in? Well, actually, I was 20 years old, 21. I wanted to be a Mr. Olympia back then. I did not even
Mm.
touch alcohol during this relationship, like ever. I might have had maybe 2 or 3 beers one time with her. I
Hmm.
had no drugs, no alcohol. I did not spend time without going out with friends or anything. I was very dedicated. I thought I wanted to be like Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Clean life. You're living a clean life.
Yeah, and so what was going on was we would get into arguments and arguments so little and so normal in any relationship that I can't even barely really remember.
Mm.
And I saw it was like a sock drawer and I'm putting away laundry because I was always involved even in that stuff, dishes, laundry. I had been doing that. I started living on my own when I was 17. And
Mm.
so I saw custody and visitation paperwork in one of our dressers. And I thought, where did this come from? And it came from my mother giving them to her. And
Wow.
it comes from the most I've looking at it now and continuing these days is my mother wanted control over my child and she wanted me out of the way. And
Prior to this year,
yeah.
prior to you, this relationship and this child, what was the relationship with your mother like? Was it just a normal mother-son relationship, or was it always a troubled relationship?
Oh no, and I was always such a nice, sweet kid. Even you can happen between male friends can kind of treat you bad, take advantage of you. Or, of course, as a young man, you might experience that most likely with females. They will treat some guys bad, and a lot of guys don't have the self-esteem or confidence, the understanding to say, hey, I'm setting a boundary, this person's got to go.
Hmm.
Well, I was even with my own mother. I didn't realize how much, my mother was doing to me. Or I probably should have cut her out of my life immediately, even as a young teenager. She was married, and I'll tell you a little bit about where. So our relationship, I think, was more fun when I was very small, and that's how my mother's mentality is. When she's around the small children, she's close to them, but as they start getting older, it doesn't matter so much to her anymore. And I see that. I have a nephew, my sister, which I'm not close with, and part of the story as well. My sister has a son, and my mother, and unfortunately my sister, you would think that they hate the child. It's very sad the way the treatment. And he's only, I think he's 7 now. I don't see them. I haven't seen or barely talked to my sister ever in our entire adult lives, and this goes back to being a kid. But my mother, she married a guy, her high school sweetheart, and that relationship ended with my father moving her out of that house, physically helping her move her stuff out into his place. And so the same thing, she was maybe married to that guy for a year or so. Then she was married to my father for about 14 years. They split when I was about 12. My sister was maybe about 4 years old. And her next husband, he helped her move out of that house. And then I had a stepfather until I was out of the house. So teenage years, 12 to 16. And I was really kind of out of the house at 16. Now that dynamic, I was no longer a small child. My mother was dating a new man. He did not like an older boy, a 12-year-old boy.
Hmm.
He didn't want him in the picture, and my mother was all for it. So
Hey, gotcha.
right off the bat, I was not watched. I was on a skateboard in the city, introduced to smoking weed, and luckily I didn't
Mm.
touch it really, but there was even
Mm.
cocaine around me at 12 years old and some of the guys doing other drugs, but mostly it was just like weed and alcohol, cigarettes,
Mm.
and that stuff is all just like that. You're just a step away
Yeah.
from disaster. Um,
Mm.
and so I was in the street skateboarding and I would sleep. I remember one time when my mother was going through the split with my father, I did not see her for 2 weeks. She kind of like
Wow.
give me, I maybe briefly see her and she'd give me $20 or something. I stayed at my friend's house and his mother must have been asking like what's going on? This kid's been here for like 2 weeks. Remember, that was a really
Mm.
big stretch. Um, and so I already wasn't being watched. And however, at the same time, the potential that was sad to kind of look back on, I was a very smart kid. A couple of years
Mm.
later, I'm into high school. My mother's married to this guy. We're in a house together. And on my own, I I wasn't on the same side of town anymore either. So I just decided I didn't touch any weed. I started smoking weed at 11 years old. That's really sad. That's a tiny child. If I didn't touch it anymore on my own about 13, 14, started high school, I was getting like straight A's freshman year,
Wow.
sophomore year.
Mm.
Now, my stepfather was kind of a more heavy set guy, and he was a hardworking dude. He had a great job. He made really good money. He wasn't really super rich, but he made enough money to be comfortable. He had three kids. So I was about 12. He had a son that was 9, two little girls that were like 6 and 7, and then my little sister was 4. So immediately there's this gap between me and my sister. We're 8 years apart. I
Mm.
stopped having a relationship with my sister when they started this relationship. She was 4, I was 12. When they moved in together, the girls were in one room, I was in my own room, and the stepbrother was in his room. And they kept us pretty much apart in all of our activities. If we did anything, it was me and the stepdad and the stepbrother and the girls. Me and my
Mm.
sister were split. Um, let's see. It- my father, this guy's kind of heavy set, worked in the oil fields. My father was like a tan surfer, uh, sports lover. The other guy loves sports too, but my dad was more of like, let's look like this athlete. And I think the guy was jealous of my father. And plus, all
Mm.
of a sudden, I'm the oldest son in the house, and he didn't want that either. He wanted his son to be like this young football star.
Mm.
My son's the oldest. You're in the way of that. And I really got kind of disrespected 24/7 by the guy. It wasn't physical, didn't beat me or anything, but the speech to me around the family and stuff was just very off-putting, disrespectful. And
Passive aggressive, yeah.
yeah, and I was very thin. I was super ectomorph, tall, thin. I looked like a
Mm.
skeleton even in these years. And even that guy, he didn't kind of step in and say, "Hey, this is how you eat." But that's what pushed me towards the bodybuilding stuff later. A struggle became a strength, right?
Mm. Mm.
So in this dynamic, there was a few weird things said by this guy, to push through this part of the story is at one point he said, if I had a stepson that I didn't like, I would send him out of state. Well, about a year
Wow.
later, I was out of state. I was sent to
Mm.
Missouri from California for a couple of months to a boys camp. There was only about 13 of us there. And another thing the stepdad said to me, because I was trying to go to the gym, I was like, my friends are getting thicker and they can lift weights and they're playing football. I went to go play football and I said, I want to feel better. And the guy tried to tell me, we're not getting you a gym membership because some people are just skinny for their whole life. It was the weirdest thing,
Mm.
to say.
God, yeah.
A
Yeah.
grown man, he was probably around 40 or so, to say that to a boy. He know better. It's a
Picking on a kid, yeah, it's not nice. He basically he's to pick on a kid like that. Like I said, when you put something into a child's mind, yeah, into his paradigm, into his subconscious, this stuff can affect you your whole life. That's what I'm saying. It's dangerous.
I'd say the third weirdest thing that he had ever said to me, and these are just the top of the iceberg. He said, well, there's 5 kids here in the house. The likelihood of one of them becoming addicted to drugs is pretty high. And he's trying to feed this into my head. It was very
That's
weird.
yeah.
Uh, and so at 16, like I was butting heads with him so much there. And thankfully, I was very self-driven anyways. I was always pretty
Hmm.
intelligent on my own. And
Hmm.
to add into here, especially with regards to my father passed away from cancer during this time. I was 16 years old, right before
Wow.
my junior year of high school. And so he barely had it
Mhm.
for a couple of years. It was cancer in the blood, leukemia. My parents had already been split. My dad had moved just a couple hours away where he always wanted to be at the coast in Ventura.
Mhm.
And, I would kind of see him on weekends. However, family court. My mother put them on weekends with a court order.
Uh,
It wasn't just hey, you can see them when you know, give us a call, come pick them up. Also, my mother had always encouraged uh, making him a villain. And there were times, unfortunately, he was dying of cancer, and I didn't talk to him for 6 months at a time because I was angry with him.
yes, yeah. See, that's the thing, innit? It's that whole process again, and the impact on the child and what the child perceives the situation to be. Because deep down, it's a feeling of abandonment. A lot of guys then have that abandonment issues, they call it, ultimately, growing up.
And so, like that, these are things as I kept going through this, even to this day, I still learn new things about it all the time. And when we were in the house and my parents were together, I was maybe 12, my sister was 4, and all the years before that, I would see fights, you know, and my dad would hang out with some of his friends too much. He'd drink too much. And he would use drugs with them sometimes, although you couldn't really tell. He was a very social person, very bubbly. As soon as the people
Mm,
met him, they loved him. But I thought of those years as my dad is crazy, out of control with anger. My parents would fight and scream in front of us, and I've seen some physical things in front of us.
mm,
Then I learned later, okay, what really was my mother's part in that? You know, I wouldn't say my dad always made great decisions, but my mother was actually had the personality to where if there was an argument, she would get in the man's face. She would get up in there
mm,
like a lot of women do
mm.
and really egg on a fight. And I heard
Yeah,
comments about that from other adults. One of my dad's friends he grew up with, he kind of mentioned, they said, "Mom," he said, "Man, your mom was like a girl from the hood," he kind of would say, and he'd say she would just get up there and just ready to fight, and she would be
get
like
up in your
this.
face. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, and I'm like, I still learn, you know, more about that stuff all the time, and so that was kind of my childhood, you know, and I realized I was
yeah. It's
actually
tough.
an alienated kid, and I was also alienated from my sister as soon as they split. I had a
Mm,
stepfather that was kind of jealous of the male dynamic. He's jealous of my father, he's jealous of me. And that was kind of without the guidance, especially when a man's there that has the opportunity to say, "Hey, dude, this is not the right path, you know. This is you need to be here with us. We need to know what you're doing. We care about you." Instead, it was like if he's kind of out of the way, then we can pretend that we have this little family here. So that's how it went for me, and that's how I
yeah,
having a child of my own right out of high school. And then I should have known, you know, kind of a lot of red flags for my own mother. I still felt I wanted my mother around. I'm having a child, you know, let's experience this together. Instead, she was already, as my mother was with a lot of extended family, they would always come to her. She was a paralegal for 30 something years, not in a family, but in civil plaintiff court, stuff like that. But she knew
hmm,
the courts. She was helping all of my cousins, all the girls, get divorces. She was helping them with custody
oh
paperwork. I
God,
look back and remember these things. Hey, Aunt Sheila, can you help us with this? Can you help us fill this out? Oh yeah, and it's a codependency on drama. Then I look at the personality of my mother. What's she always talking about when you hang out with her? Even to this day, I haven't seen her for about a year, but I should never have had her here. And my wife even kind of, thank God, you know, she didn't fall into that because she tried it with her too. But she would be here. We'd be hanging out with our kids. And I have 3 beautiful little girls
yeah, yeah,
in the
that's
house. And my mother was not focusing on them. She was sitting on the couch talking to us about other problems, her problems at work, how bad other people are. And then kind of
mm,
not always super horrible language, but she would kind of cuss in front of the kids, stuff too. And I'm like,
brings this negativity. Yeah, see, this is a trait. This is a behavioral pattern. Yeah,
and my sister really
constantly.
copies this behavior to this day. After the little time we spent together, barely just a couple of years ago, before we kind of just said this isn't really working, is it was the same behavior. We were at a pumpkin patch together, beautiful day, kids everywhere, parents, and we're all kind of waiting in line. We happened to be at the front of the line. I guess we just got there early, and they kind of it's a farm. It's like a big ranch area, and they let you guys go out, and there's face painting, big slide. You get
Hmm.
a little tractor ride through the pumpkin patch in the cornfield. And my mother and sister had the same behavior. They were starting to complain, well, why are we waiting so long? When are you going to open up the gate? It's past, whatever, 8 o'clock. And it was so
Yeah.
embarrassing to be next to them. Little
Mm.
things like that. And so when me and my first child's mother split, I remember recently I had asked my mother for a little help with groceries, some grocery money. And she had, refused that, but we split right around that same time, and she got my ex an apartment, furnished the apartment, paid the rent, paid the utilities, bought her a new car, a Mustang,
Wow.
not a brand new one, but it was like a pretty nice car. Gave her free babysitting and helped her do the custody paperwork. And you know where I went right
Mm.
after that? Homeless. And I was 22
Mm.
years old.
Wow.
So, and now, say even like recently over the past couple of years, um, any basic struggle between me and my wife, like any kind of little argument development in the house, nothing major, is my mother was in her ear saying, say if
Mm.
we're like struggling with rent, with basic bills and stuff, and she would say, "I'll help you. I'll pay the rent and bills if you get him out of the house." You know,
Wow. What is going on? Yeah, listen, that's cold.
and you would question like, "Well, what's wrong with this guy? How come?" And I've heard it from even close people in my life. Well, why would your mom do that? Why would she treat you like that? You know?
What's her agenda? Yeah, listen, she's got clearly got issues of her own. She's clearly got trauma of her own and issues from her own upbringing. I mean, this tough. It's tough to hear. It's tough to hear that
Yeah.
a mother would do that to her own child.
So
Honestly,
it's oh,
this.
here's what's worse. What's some of the worst things is, through the process, I'll tell you, I've been through over 20 court orders. Oh, 20. Some guys I've seen, even good fathers accounts that are doing great. I love what they're doing. I've kind of noticed they kind of just had like two trials, maybe, and I've had
Mm.
quite a bit. And it doesn't make their situation less because they learned everything and they're helping people now. I see,
Yeah, yeah. Mm.
um, because one is enough, and the sad part that it's great that we all get to bring all of our experiences because as a team, and if the more
Mm.
this grows, we say in these groups and things and guidance and mentorship, hey, listen, dude, I've been through this. You just went through a whole trial and you got your order. Oh, well, now the order's not being followed. Oh, I'll call the people I've respected my whole life, the law enforcement. They show up
Mm.
and then they're treating you bad and they don't even enforce it.
Yeah, that's the seems to be the pattern in all the Western countries. Same, the thing is, it's the same pattern, same story, same playbook. And you think, is there a wider conspiracy in all of these Western countries where law around this has gone so far the other way that a man is just the father's just invisible. He has nothing to hold on to. I just don't get it.
Yeah, and you could spend, and it's so sad. It's one of the worst things, and I'll be focusing on it as we move in the future. Is the police will turn around and say, you got to go back to court and fix this order. And it's like, dude, some guys
Yes.
are selling their houses to go to court one time. And
Mm.
you finish all that and you get out there and you hear that from a cop who's waiting to get off a 12-hour shift and doesn't
Mm.
really, and I understand there's two, it's a dichotomy with police for me and for some
Yeah.
lawyers who some of them seem to be like they want to help. And I
Yeah.
can't just completely disrespect and hate.
No,
It's
no,
not. I
absolutely.
can't. And the
Got to
same
be
thing with police
balanced. Got to be
officers.
fair and balanced.
Got to be fair. And so they're, and I hate the term, but it's like sometimes their hands are kind of tied. They do have to follow certain policies. Whether or not I would personally keep a job that has that kind of like dishonor to it is my own argument. But at the same time, I can't just hate all of them. However, but that's what they'll say, hey, you got to go back and clear this up, make the order more clear and readable or whatever. So I've had over 20 court orders. including
Bloody hell.
temporary ones, over 20 judges. There was about 8 judges just in our one final trial from 2018 to 2022 that took 4 years to even wait for.
Wow.
I've been through false accusations of domestic violence restraining order, domestic violence restraining order violation, um, professional supervised visits or supervised visits with like a family member. My mother was that horrible. Okay. That didn't work out very much at all. I've been through homelessness, expert evaluators, expert witnesses. They're all the different terms for, they call them guardian ad litem, or in my local area, child appointed attorneys. Like
Mm,
to me is like one of the worst devils in the court that I've experienced, or the expert witnesses. And so what I was getting at, one of the worst things with my mother was it was probably, we've already had 2 different trials, 2 different court orders.
mhm,
And I, I think we had 3 at this point. And there was almost 4 because my ex was filing all the time. Within months of getting an order, she'd file again. It was just, and there's one point where I had uh I had lost a job in the place I lived. And I had asked my mother, can I come stay with you guys for a short time? I don't want to live with friends. I was very focused on being a
mm,
father. I wanted to uh just to do my part, even if it just meant paying child support and showing up on the weekends. I wanted to do
yeah.
that. And when I was 20, maybe 25 years old at this time. I'm almost 37 now. And I went to my mother's and she was saying, no, you can stay here for a couple of days. And so I had no job, nowhere to live. I stayed there briefly. And I worked with I worked with like a pool guy, which was a friend of hers for a short time. But this was the time I said, hey, I'm not struggling to pay rent right now. I'm going to try and get into an electrical workers brotherhood, a solid job, good paying job.
Mm, mm,
Well, my mother kind of knew this is an opportunity to help take control. And I'd ask like, hey, I just need help with my phone bill and my car insurance. Well, she said no. So 2 months into this, maybe, um, I'm still there at her place, and without the phone on, there's no cell phone. Okay, without car insurance, your car registration will cancel after a little while. They'll say, "Hey, you don't have insurance. We're going to suspend your registration too." So there's no registration, no insurance, no cell phone. You don't, and then behind on child support, they take your driver's license.
oh God,
Lost
yeah,
my
yeah.
driver's license. And the driver's license, the registration, and my cell phone all happened within about a 1 week period, right at the same time. And my mother and my ex put together an emergency hearing request to say he has nowhere to live, he has no phone, he has no car insurance, driver's license, no job. We want him on professional supervised visits. And right at this time as well, when I didn't have my driver's license and I'm like, okay, I can't get this electrical job without a driver's license.
Hmm.
I went to my buddy invited me to a dirt biking weekend camping trip, and I smoked like 2 joints with him and his girlfriend, right?
Hmm.
And this was when uh marijuana was still illegal in California. This was about 3 years before 2018. And so they also said he's on drugs, just he's on drugs in this thing. They didn't even serve me properly. I could have passed this. I didn't know. I had no guidance, nobody. And they left this
Mm,
pink slip on the table in the kitchen. My mom said, "Hey, there's a paper in there. I don't know what it is." And she helped write it.
mm,
Maybe you should go check it out. And it said you have 2 days to show up to court. Well, I go in there, and this is a very relevant, heavy part of the story. I go into the courtroom. My mother is in the hallway with my ex and my ex-husband at the time. She had just gotten married about a year before this. My mom, I'm like, well, hey, what are you doing here? I thought you didn't know what was going on. barely in the hallway because it's always eggshells. I didn't say much.
Hmm.
I said, "What are you doing here?" And she said, "Did you check your email?" I said, "No." She said, "Well, you should check your email." And I'm like, "Okay." I rolled my eyes. I didn't talk to them. I go to the court. Judge asks me, "Do you know why you're here?" I said, "No, I haven't been getting," because they didn't even want to give me their pleading paperwork to explain why they filed it because they're just like cutthroat, you know this.
Mm.
So I said, "Hey, can the court says we'll let him read it." And so I kind of make the whole courtroom. There's people waiting all around us for their hearing. There's attorneys. My ex did not have an attorney yet. And this is the heavy part that's coming up about an attorney, So I read my pleading. It's about 2 pages. And one of them is a full page from my mother saying my child was 5 at the time. He's never
Mm.
been in his kid's life. Complete
Bloody
lie. He's
hell.
not looking for any work and hasn't worked. I lived with her and worked with her friend while I was at her house. He's on drugs. And they still don't even though it's marijuana and yeah, it's kind of considered that.
Mm.
They use it, it helps. It helps more than drugs.
It sounds bad. Yeah, that's all it
No
is.
driver's license, no car insurance, no registration. Um, isn't paying child support. And the judge, he says, okay, so it holds it all there. He said, you're going to go do a toxicology lab, a drug test, and come back. And I kind of knew, even though I'd never tried it, you could go drink a thing and pee clear, I was like, I don't even
Mhm.
care. Like I was always so honest and cooperative with the court, which is like to a fault. A lot of men will do that. I went
Yeah.
and did it, and then they ended up cutting some hair off of my head, which they I guess were not supposed to do. I didn't know that. And I turned it in. I knew I was just gonna fail. It's fine. And we go in there, and then the old man judge, real old guy, he goes, because they requested no contact until an order was made and they wanted supervised visits. And he said, well, yeah, I've found weed in your system and they're offering you 8 I don't know. I don't think it was 8 hours. I think it was like 1 p.m. to 8 p.m. on Sundays at my mother's house, of course, in the control with my mother, if she wanted to do it, if she wanted to be there. There was no guarantee. He said, I would have given you
Hmm.
less time. It was just for having weed in my system.
Hmm.
And so, I walk out of there with this and I'm pissed. And in the email from my mother said, you have like 2 weeks to leave. Okay.
Bloody hell.
And here's what I want to say about one of the worst things that my mother did. I didn't find this out till 5, 6 years later. I leave. I go door to door. I don't care if I remember it was an old lady's mom and pop cupcake shop to oil field jobs to movie theaters, restaurants. I'd never worked in a restaurant. I got hired at a restaurant. Johnny Garlic's famous Guy Fieri opened a restaurant up in town. They hired me as a busser. Well, such a famous guy, the restaurant blew up. They were making $250,000 a week or something. I was getting a
Bloody hell.
$100 cash per night, working 9 days in a row as a busser. All of a sudden, I'm making more money than my ex. I barely had a girlfriend at the time. That's very rough going through this. It's unlikely to even
Mm.
have one. I buy a new cell phone, get a new cell phone number, paid my car insurance, paid my registration, paid my child support. My buddy and his mother and father let me live in an extra bedroom they had. And really, with my
Mm.
girlfriend, I kind of moved into her place at this time, and I was making more money than her all of a sudden as a
Mm.
busboy, you know. And I had just lost a job, a solar job, putting solar panels, about a me say about a year before this because of family court stuff. They brought me in. I worked there 9 days. I made like $3,000. I was so happy about this job.
Nice.
And they
Yeah.
say, hey, your background check came in. You have a violent offense, the domestic violence, a misdemeanor. We can't let you be at people's houses because you're a danger.
Mm.
I remember that was a hard hit. But my buddy that worked there with me, he kept going and he made like 200 grand that year. And
Wow.
he
Bloody
says,
hell.
my girlfriend has an attorney. She's going through family court. And me being the boyfriend there, I was encouraging her that kid's dad needs to see him. even though if you're going.
Mm.
So I got the same attorney, first time and only time getting a lawyer. My buddy that made all the money gave me $2,000 to get in a lawyer and loaned it to me. And so I walk in with a lawyer. I go back in there to court, right? And even though my ex just got that order, she had asked for another domestic violence restraining order again. She filed again. I was working at that restaurant. They in the middle of a busy restaurant, some guy comes in,
Mm.
her husband's brother-in-law, gives me a paper in front of everybody,
Oh God.
and I didn't read it. Okay, I almost got arrested. I didn't read it. I said, "Hey, I'm gonna go put this in my car real quick." And my manager said, "That's cool." Well, on my break, I go out to my car and I text my ex's boyfriend, and I'm like, "Hey, dude, you're a pussy, and you're not taking my kid away from me," because I saw the name on the paperwork. Well, right after I
Mm.
text that, I read it, and I knew because I'd already been through it. This is a domestic violence restraining order. You can't contact any of them.
No, no.
I started sweating. I was freaking out. I was like, I'm going to get arrested for this again. And I had already been arrested for it twice before, and that's just, it makes the story so much longer. But in this case, my girlfriend, luckily, she said, well, you already said something. You know what you should do is just say, hey, I just read the order. I'm not going to contact you guys again. So I did that. And that saved me. The police, the
Mm.
district attorney, whoever saw that, didn't put charges through. I got lucky. But so,
Mm.
I did all this, having none of these, things, all these documents, job, place to live,
Mm.
loaned for an attorney. I show up in
Yeah,
court.
man.
She starts smashing my ex in the court, saying my ex would try to talk and she'd shut her down. Lack of foundation, hearsay. And that I went from supervised visits once a week, which longer story, my mother didn't show up to almost any of them. I saw her drive away with my kid in the car on one of them. And she tried to tell the
Mm.
police I tried to run her off the road because I pulled up
Mm.
next to her and I was like, what are you doing? My girlfriend was with me. Anyways, you know what my mother did? She asked her saying, "Oh, you can't provide all this. You can't provide all this." Well, I did it all. I show up with a lawyer. I'm serious. My mother
Mm.
handed her $5,000 and got her an attorney to go against me.
Bloody hell, man. What is going on?
Okay. I mean, and so that is the
Yeah,
key point here. And I had to build up to that, and
that's
she did it
cold.
again a few years later. So that's
Man, this is
what kind
just
of
tough.
mother I have in her involvement. And you know what my attorney did?
Yeah.
Got me from supervised visits once a week to 4 days a week. I kind of had majority time. If you count my daughter was away from her mother during the school day, I picked my daughter
Mm.
up from school Tuesday, Wednesday, had her for a few hours, Friday overnight to Saturday at noon. Okay.
Hmm.
I had basically, when you're at home with your kid, I had more time with her than her mom for about 5 months. But they're
And
attorneys.
how old was she at this stage?
She was about 5, coming on 6 years old.
Okay,
I
okay.
lived in the apartment with my girlfriend, and she had a son, and we had a beautiful little family for a little bit.
Mm.
Fast forward, girlfriend doesn't want to deal with it. We break up. And here's the playbook. Well, I had an attorney. You know what they did? They pushed my case out a little bit, and I ran out of money. My attorney's gone.
Done. Financial burnout. Yeah. Got you.
I turn around from majority time with my kid to back to the old order. Same old. It's like, why was
Mm.
all this worth it? I went back to the every other weekend and one weekday visit. Okay. Also, what my attorney did too during that time was drop the restraining order. They just turned it to a stay away order, which is far less dangerous.
Mm.
You know what else my kid's mom did during this time when I had about 4 days a week? Well, of course, you get treated like trash at the school. I had a teacher
Mm.
come out the first day I picked up my daughter and tell me, well, you can't take her backpack home in front of all the little
Yeah.
kids and the parents at the gate. And I said, what do you mean I can't take her backpack home? Mind you, in the backpack, her kid had wrote her new husband, who she's divorced from now, his last name, and tried to tell the school it was the kid's last name, my kid's last name. And they said, you can't take the backpack. And I said, okay, show me all her paperwork right here in hot sun on the tarmac, the basketball court area. Show me every piece of her work. And my daughter's embarrassed, and I'm trying not to make a scene.
Yeah.
So the next
So,
day, the school apologizes to me and says, yeah, we can't do that, and starts giving me the
mm.
backpack. And then I'm telling them like, what's up with her name? Why is her name not my last name? And then they have to tell the mom that's not her legal last name. You can't be doing this at the school because they registered her with it, but in the classroom, the teacher was going along with it. This is your last name.
Yeah, they're
Okay.
all in on it, man. I hate to say it.
And
Bloody hell.
another attack on this little 4 days a week I had, Saturday until noon, right? This was every week, Friday overnight, Saturday till noon. Well, her mom signs her up for T-ball during my Saturday mornings because there's all these
Yeah,
so the first day to T-ball, I get out there, I just go along with it. I want her to do it to play. Well, I'm left sitting by a tree, and the mom and the husband are out there with their caps on, trying to play catch. He throws like a girl.
no,
And I'm like, I'm not putting up with this. And so I said, I'm not taking her to this T-ball thing. Of course, you know what that is we're gonna tell the kid that, it's your fault. You didn't let her do it. And this happened in other ways.
mm,
So all these little attacks and stuff came in. It only lasted 5 months. My mother paid for an attorney, right? And that's just one of many, court
yeah,
dates, other supervised visitations, and so I could talk about my story and each little piece, for hours and hours as I've been through so much. But those are all tactics. They'll drown you out when
mm,
you have an attorney. Even the child appointed attorney that was involved had no problem. You know what she told me? She said, well, I had a stepdad when I was a kid and everybody knew me by his name. That's fine.
yeah. Listen, it doesn't surprise me when I hear these things. You know, when you've seen so much of family court, the processes and the things that go on, it's sad. It's got to the point where it doesn't even shock me or surprise me anymore. So the question is this: at what age was your daughter when you lost contact sort of permanently? Then, like,
This was all going on in 2015. She was 5 or 6 years old. 2018, the mother had gone through a divorce. She had the the stepdad was, other than alienating me and listening to her. I understand these guys can be manipulated, and to a certain extent I feel bad for them, even though I was always
mm,
very angry with them. You got to understand, sometimes these guys are getting a completely different description of you.
yes, yes,
They're
they
getting
don't know.
they're feeling loved, and then the big one, this is a play on man's psychology. You got to be careful with this. If mom makes dad into a villain, boyfriend feels like he's protecting her. And that's a natural.
Yes, they trigger that natural instinct to want to protect your woman, sort of thing, and your family. Yes, 100%.
And so they will ignore any red flags, misalignments in
Yes.
evidence, storylines, because I'm protecting her. I'm okay, whatever you say.
They won't see it. They can't see it. If they're young men as well, especially, listen, they can't see it. They don't know.
So poor
They
guy,
don't know.
husband, they were only married about 3 years. He was a nice guy, a teacher at like a high school. They lived across the street from the elementary school for a while, beautiful house. I don't know why they thought it was a good idea. She had got a job at like a nightclub. Well, you could guess what substances, infidelity kind of things got involved. I don't want to get I always got to be careful
Yeah,
with
yeah, no, 100%. Yeah, yeah,
tax
yeah.
and stuff like that too. But that's, whatever, everything you can imagine with that kind of a
It's a
job
bad
led to a
environment. Yeah.
divorce. And so there was a new boyfriend at this time by 2017, 2018, and he's being told, hey, he's never been, has never been around his daughter. He has a court order and he uses it to harass me. He shows up randomly. Okay. And I had to move from our town about 3 or 4 hours south, down into, beautiful San Diego, because I was just doing Uber driving.
Mhm.
And I lived in my car
Yeah,
when I got there until I got an apartment. So I went for it. I lived in my
yeah.
car. I showered at the gym. We were talking about this. I did this several times. I got a beautiful apartment with a master bedroom with an old guy who had one bedroom there. He gave me a super good deal. Beautiful. I could see SeaWorld from my window, and
Mm,
what's it called? Mission Bay.
wow.
Moms hate that when you Oh, he's in San Diego. He's living at the beach. He's, maybe dating. Oh, and I was in great shape. I was ripped, too ripped.
Mm,
I was on steroids at the time. So I used them a few times in my life. And now I am an advocate not to touch them. I haven't touched them for 10 years. Anyways, so this is going on. So she's telling him, hey, he just shows up out of nowhere. Where I was doing, I was telling her, hey, I'm going to be exercising my visitation in the next 2 weeks. I'm going to show up at this. I'm going to be there.
hmm.
Just nice conversation. No conversation, but communication from me. And so I'd show up at the house, and this guy's under the influence that he just showed up here and he might attack somebody. So
Mm,
he and this is a very serious part of my story is it was kind of a setup to attempt to have me shot, and I didn't even know this at the time. So
wow.
near he was keeping it in the kitchen and on top of a refrigerator. Okay. I didn't know this. I was very close to being shot every time I showed up. I had no idea. Well, I
Mm,
got my daughter. I drove 4 hours to get her on a Tuesday from like 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. and then drive 4 hours home. So I
wow.
was listening to your kids. We went to go get some lunch, and she's 8 years old, and we're just in conversations. Why you don't look at your phones, why you don't ignore your kids. She kind of says, oh yeah, I found a gun this morning next to my cereal box, and then kind of keeps talking. And I was listening and I thought, what? And I said, it can what happened? I saw a gun. I found a gun this morning. It was next to my cereal box because these two adults, it's nightclub stuff or bar cocktail bartender serving. They sleep in the mornings. An 8-year-old has to feed herself breakfast, climb to the top of the refrigerator to get cereal.
Mm, mm,
And I'm like, and if we were co-parenting, I could say, hey, this is super dangerous. Can you guys figure this out and fix it? Because I don't mind guns. Everybody should have them. Or, we're in the United States, and normally that's like, hey, let's fix that. But I could not.
mm.
I had to
No, you had
say,
no communication.
I had, our the mother's house was in the city district, so that's police. And the pickup where I was, because I didn't come get my daughter and take her to San Diego, I stayed in town. I would go over to my
Mm,
mother's house, another bad place. Because my mother was so weird with split personality, she would kind of be on my side sometimes because the problem was so bad. She'd be like, oh, that's ridiculous.
mm,
So I notified sheriff and police. I said, hey, my daughter said she found a gun. I want you guys to go check this out before I send her home with her mom tonight.
hmm.
Turns out they do a horrible job investigating any of it. The sheriff shows up and tells me, hey, it's not illegal to have a gun. I'm going to arrest you if you don't send your daughter home with her right now. And I'm worried about her life. There was other two
Mm,
kids, 7 and 5, also in the house. So there could be a horrible accident.
yeah.
On the sheriff's report, it says the mother stated she does not have a firearm in the house. A few hours later, police finally show up at like 10 p.m. at night. This is after maybe 6 p.m. Uh, Their report says mother went searching for the gun as if it was hide and seek, found it in a safe, and the guy
Mm,
leaves and basically says, "Okay, you should keep them in a safe." And I had to make complaints about this because this is not how it
mm,
should be handled. Anyways, because my daughter found this, I talked to child protective services. They advised that I file an emergency hearing and they would investigate it. And so I did. I knew how to file them at this time. I've been through so many court dates and stuff. I was always filing my own stuff.
mm,
That's a crazy process, hours worth of conversation. So I filed it, and we get in there, and she's got an attorney. My mother probably paid for it again, right?
mom pays for it. Yeah, yeah.
Judge ignores it, says, I'll just order that guns are to be kept in a safe, and we'll set a court date.
Mm,
When I filed that emergency hearing, her mom knew I was already going to file it. I was in San Diego. I filed one and I said, hey, the court date's two days from now in the morning. All you have to do at that point is send a text message, because it's an emergency. You have to let them know at least with a text message or phone call. And then I had to cancel it because I couldn't make it out of town. And I had to file another one. Well, I had to file another one. Her mom went and filed her own paper, filed first, be in the middle of me canceling one and the next one, filed first, asking
Mm-hmm.
for another domestic violence restraining order, saying that I'm harassed.
Okay.
Okay, so this is in retaliation and fear, like, because it should have been serious. I think she was worried that it was serious, but uh files and says, I want no contact with him and my daughter. He's dangerous. He's going to attack us. Well, the judge signs up. This is rare. The judge says, I don't see any evidence of harassment. You didn't really mention anything. So I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
deny the temporary order until the hearing. And then, so between this time, we start going into court. One of those court dates, I'm already, well familiar in there. I asked the judge, hey, because we're going to go in on clarity because she hasn't been following the order anyways.
Mm-hmm.
I would show up after this, and I had 6 police outside reading the court order say, well, you're supposed to have her on odd weekends after this date. 6 police officers. We'll start from this date. Let's count the weekends on our phones to enforce an order because mom was playing my phone.
Mm. Yeah.
So we go into court, and her attorney and a child appointed attorney are already involved, and I don't have one. And they're saying, well, we just need clarity on the order because it's not that clear, and mom's struggling with it. And we'd followed the order for years, for 3 years. She knew. And so the
Mm.
judge says, okay, let's just make it a little bit more clear. And I say, hey, can I just have some phone calls when I don't see my daughter? Can I have phone calls? That's a response. That's a reasonable request. And he says, sure.
Yeah.
I'm like that for a father. I'm like, oh my God, never talked, by the way, never talked to my daughter on the phone, never had a phone call her whole life.
Mm.
So he says, okay, what time would you like to do it? I said, maybe 7 p.m. And mom goes, no, 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 I can't. How about 7 a.m.? And the judge is like, well, she goes to school, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. How about 3:30 p.m.? Mom picks the time. I said, okay. I bought my child an iPad and paid for the service. We'll do the calls on the iPad. Not one call was honored for about 4 months, 144 days. Counts of contempt, right?
Mm. Mm.
So that's part of it. They said, okay, I still had my weekends and weekday visits. Well, during this time, between another 6-month court date, I see my daughter almost none. She doesn't show up. I drove 4 hours from, San Diego to see her at school. I called the court, the police, and the school and said, hey, I'm coming. I want to make sure this order's correct.
Mm.
Showing up. And again, the school treats a father, well, where's your court order? We want to make sure you're
Mm.
following it every time I show up. Well, this time the court order says I could have her, but the
Mm.
school still called mom and said, hey, he's coming to pick her up. Mom went to school and took her out early.
Wow.
If I had the energy to sue the school for it, I could have, but you're so trashed as a father,
Oh
barely.
yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So
The
anyway,
odds are stacked against you.
yeah, to get to speed up and get to how we got to no contact was during this time I'm losing. This is where I really started to just like lose almost lose my sanity over the whole thing because I'm like, hey, every time we kept going in for status updates in the court, I said, hey, she hasn't followed the order at all. She's got no phone
Mm.
calls. And when a mother's in there and says that, you're in trouble as a father, and it's
Yeah.
set in stone.
Yeah.
Okay, when I said this to judges, they said, I'm not playing he said, she said, we'll wait for the trial.
Ex exactly. This is the same. It's the same playbook, right? Yeah. And I'm saying we're not playing. He said, she said, she's not following this. It's the same pattern, same language, and the same attitude towards father.
Here's how bad the court is. We switched judges already at this point. So the first judge that gave me the phone calls was gone, and I got a new one saying we're not playing he said, she said between this is September to February.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, one of these status hearings, I could not get there from San Diego. I couldn't make it. And it was a
No.
4-hour drive. And we're on a parenting app now. I contacted the mother and said, hey, please just let me know, kind of like nothing's going on. We haven't moved forward
Yeah.
because at this point we agreed to an expert evaluator. I thought as a father, let me warn you guys, oh, I'm going to get an investigation. It's over. Like they're going to see all this. No. And they ordered it in like November, and we're going in, February. There's a checkup. Well, I'm not there. So the attorney, the child attorney, and my kid's mother say, we don't know where he's at. We don't think he's following the order. He hasn't been exercising visitations backwards.
Mm.
Judges aren't supposed to do this. Then the he said, she said thing, the same guy goes, oh, and they said, we're not sure that he's going to cooperate with the expert evaluator investigation either. So he says, I'm taking away his visitation. I'm changing it to from every other weekend for, Friday to Sunday and a weekday for a few hours to only Saturdays twice a month from like 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. without a trial, with complete hearsay. And the
Mm.
truth was, it was my kid's mother who had not even paid the expert evaluator yet at that time. Had just paid her like maybe 8 days before or after that. I can't remember which.
Uh-huh.
I had been trying to show up for my stuff, telling ahead of time I'm going to be there. And, like I said, she'd take her early from school. I'd show up for pickup at 6 p.m. on a Friday. She would wait till 6:20, 6:30. I'm still
Mm.
outside. You're not supposed to come out of the car or the house, right? We had this as part of the rules. Well, she would come out and come walk to my car, or actually her boyfriend, she would send him come knocking on my window and stuff. And I just didn't even open it. And I'd pull out the video camera.
Mm.
And of course, I had no idea. But at that time, I'm like, why is his shirt tucked in all weird like that? Because I didn't know. I was on the verge of almost being shot several times by
Mm.
that guy in Texas. And so how did we get to no contact? Well, so this court case is really building up, and we're going on almost a year since the emergency hearing. And this is where I'm losing it. And this is where it landed me another domestic violence restraining order without living together, without even having any person-to-person contact with mom. And as I'll tell
Yeah.
you guys out there and tell fathers, like, don't even enter the space of, and I wasn't in my case, but don't enter the space of like self-harm or harming others or revenge or anything like that. But I openly said this in my trial 4 years later, because I was just like, I was not going to have any lies on my side in the court at all. I was always like, I'm wearing a badge of honor in here, even though it's to a fault and maybe not always recommended.
Mm.
I said, hey, I'm not afraid to tell the truth in here, but what I had said was it was a vague thing in a public, my Facebook was public. I was in a comment section and I said something that was kind of violent, but it wasn't a threat to anybody, about
Mm.
anybody in
Mm.
specific. But I was kind of like, oh, maybe if something crazy happened, maybe
Yeah.
the United States would take notice. It was very
Mm.
vague, right? Well, I'll tell you, that's all it took
Yeah.
for me to eventually 4 years later go to professional supervised visitation, which I basically have now, but it's never been exercised. I tried to do it twice early on in 2019 and 2020.
Mm.
And those services, there's nobody in the court holding them to their rules. I found that out.
No.
If they
No.
don't answer the phone, or if mom doesn't answer the phone, go back to court again, buddy.
There's no one to uphold the law, and the onus is on father to go through the process. And this is what I said to someone the other day on a podcast. The process is also part of the punishment. It's punishing you. It's eating away at your soul every time you go. Another application, you leave a piece. You want to say left, you leave a piece inside that ring. You leave a piece of your soul inside that family court every single time. Every single time you show up and the kid's not there, she doesn't follow through, a piece of your soul just erodes away eventually till there's nothing left, man. And that's where fathers break, they burn out, man. It's a
And that's what they
horrible,
plan.
horrible road, man, honestly.
That's what they plan. So, they could break the order. And I'll tell you, there's 220 counts of basically breaking the order. 144 was phone calls, and between 144 to 220 is a lot more of releasing the child late, not being at the pickup at all. Or I would have
Mm.
times where I showed up and the order says at the residence. Well, I got a text message after being outside for 30 minutes. Oh, here's the address your daughter's at. And I'm like, what's this address? And
Mm,
I'm like, where is this? And then it just many of these,
mm.
right? And so going to no contact, I haven't seen my daughter since August of 2019 in person.
Yeah,
That was at
push
a
to six
pickup.
plus years.
That was at a pickup where, as a father, I'm being gaslit by the police in the court, like, oh, well, it's kind of hearsay that she's letting your child out late. So I used to
Sorry,
never really.
let me just close the window, Josh.
Yeah,
Hear
yeah.
the names. I want to catch it. Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, carry on. So 2019, right? Yeah, like you said, so it was March. So she would have been around 9 years old, roughly.
It was just after her 10th birthday, and she's about to be 17, right? And so, but
17.
that
Okay, yeah,
day
perfect.
was a big day as well because I'm being told, well, you're just lying that she doesn't let her out or she lets her out late. Because those are little games too. They'll make you wait for 10 minutes, 15
Oh
minutes.
yeah, it's all part of the, yeah, yeah. Go
And
on. Sorry, carry on.
so what I had done was, and now I'm with my wife that I'm married to now. She was pregnant with my second daughter. All while my kid's mom was telling everybody else in the court was he's violently obsessed with me and it's going to harm me and stuff, and it was nowhere near that. But I had my phone out. I took out my phone, and the stay in the car order and stuff was gone.
Mm,
And because I started looking real close at the orders and everything, and so I had my phone, and I had it walking up to the house to film that I was there, because I said, okay, if I'm waiting in the car and then calling the police and I wait 4 hours for the police to get there, who still don't do anything, I'm just going to go knock on the door on camera. And I
mm,
did. And so the boyfriend opens the door and smacks my phone out of my hand and then goes back
mm,
inside and shuts the door. And in that moment, I would tell fathers too, there's this thing like, oh, we can fight. Don't. And I didn't. And I
it's
knew
like
better.
that.
I said, okay, I said, you're going to be screwed because I'm just going to call the police for a battery. So I
Mm,
did. They didn't answer the door. Then the police kind of left that day. I talked to a police officer and he laughed at me. He said, you want to charge him for assault or battery for hitting your phone? And he laughed at me after all this stress, right? This is what got layer by layer the police officer. I said, if I hit your phone out of your hand right now, how would you respond? And he goes, okay, I'll put in a report. Detective, same thing. He said, I don't know if I could do anything about this. And well, the boyfriend called the police the next day too to try and to turn things around on me. In his report, he had said, oh, he had his other hand in his pocket when he was filming. Well, guess
mm,
what? My wife had her videotape me from her phone when I walked up to the door. It wasn't in my pocket. And
mm,
I sent that to the detective, and the detective said, the only reason I'm going to put this through for you is because he lied and said your hand was in your pocket. And I see that it wasn't.
mm,
Because they were like trying to have this narrative. He's going to do something on Facebook Live. He's a psycho.
mm,
Even the district attorney was laughing at me and said, I don't know that we could really do any of this. And I called them for weeks and told them, put this through, put this through. And finally they did. He got charged with it, and he had to plead a no
okay.
contest and got a battery against me at a child custody visitation. And even the police, I
Mm,
said, well, that's neglect of a child to do that in front of a child. He said, you can't prove your child saw it. So that was the
mm,
last day I had my daughter with the police involved, and the battery. Because she came out about, I think she came out right after that happened, and then I'm having to sit there deal with police during our visit. She
yeah,
was
exactly.
That was the last
It's,
day I saw her. We hung out for a little while. I remember everything. I hugged her, and I kind of knew. I thought I'm not going to see her for a long time. I feel like
yeah, John,
maybe
listen,
seven
man. I
years.
mean, when I listen to all of this, obviously you've been through all of this as a man in your 20s, as a young man,
Yeah,
all the
I think
issues with your mother.
I was like maybe 20, 29 or something at the time, and
No,
yeah,
but like I said, you've been going through this throughout your 20s, this up and down, this emotional roller coaster, man. So listen, man, like I said, man, I used to call you man of steel. You're a tough guy, man, too. It takes a lot of resilience to continue chipping away for years. Like, just keep at it, keep at it, keep at it. So credit to you,
All of these fathers,
you know,
yourself, that's what I see about everybody. Man of Steel, it just, and that's what got me emotional in the beginning of this. That I really do feel for people, and to say
yeah,
I've been through all this. This is soul crushing, but as and I've been in and out of a relationship with our Creator, and to kind of come back and say, well, it's because you went through all this. You're having an impact now on so many people. You get to say,
yeah,
I've been through probably worse, not to downplay
yeah.
anybody else's, but it's like, hey, you get to listen to a guy that's been through that. I think I can
Mm.
keep pushing a little bit more.
Yes, yes, 100%, man. And
Same thing with you.
I think, I think like, like you can at least look back, and this is what I say to fathers: look, whatever happens in the end, number one, I say, look, you can look back on all of this in your heart. You left it all in the ring. You left everything there. There's no bit of you that when you lay down at night before you close your eyes, there's not a shadow of a doubt in your heart, in your mind that maybe I could have done more. The key factor is you control the controllables. You did everything you could within your power, with the capability that you had, with the knowledge that you had, with the odds stacked against you, living out of your car, just surviving, but you kept pushing. And that's that spirit of parenthood, a father. You gave everything.
Yeah.
And whatever happens, you walk away with your head held high and you leave it to the Creator to say, if this is your will, God, I submit to your will. I mean, Jacob was separated from his son Joseph for almost 30 years, and he was a prophet.
Yeah.
Prophets endured. If you look at what the prophets endured, and I sat there and watched the whole story, right? Because it's in the Quran as well, the story of Jacob and Joseph, the separation and his brothers. And again, treachery and betrayal from his own blood, his own brothers sold him
Yeah.
down the river, literally, yeah. So when you listen to this right, yeah, and I went through it, I saw the whole story, and they said that Prophet Jacob had to endure the pain of that separation. If prophets were tested like this, man, we are mere mortals. Ultimately, we do our best. You've left it all in the ring, and then you submit to God's will. If this is meant to be, then so be it. I embrace it. And the fact that, listen, what a lot of guys, what people, don't realize is what it takes inside there to continue through this process when it's eating away at your soul every single day. So listen, man, it's a testament to you, and you survived it, and you survived for a reason, because perhaps you were built for a greater cause, a greater service. And in order for you to deliver this service, your soul had to be purified. And going through this pain and trauma brings all your impurities to the surface, and you are purified. Do you know what I mean? And perhaps now this is what it took. This is what it was going to take to bring your potential to the surface. Great pain and trauma. And this is what I keep saying. All roads lead to one thing. That is self-improvement, alignment with your values, and alignment and assignment to a service, a greater cause. So perhaps that's what we were built for. And perhaps that's why you had to go through this to discover yourself and discover this role. And like I said, there's trials and tribulations, man, and it is tough. You've been through a lot of shit, man. I'll tell you. And even like I said, the relationship with your mother, there's things about until I went through all of this, you've got to understand as well. The other thing is when you go through pain and trauma, it brings up all your previous pains and traumas to the surface, all your previous heartbreaks. It'll bring them to the surface. And when I was going through it, like, when we first connected, that first year, I replayed every moment, every deceit, every heartbreak in my mind. I relived that moment emotionally, and I got to evaluate everything. And then because of that, I managed to evaluate all my relationships, all my friendships, everywhere where I noticed, hold on, why didn't I stand up for myself there? Was I a people pleaser there? And then I realized everything about me. That moment of clarity and discovery that I was ultimately a people pleaser most of my life. And why was I a people pleaser? Because we want to be accepted, we want to be loved. Do you see what we crave? If you strip it back to your basic human emotions, why was you a people pleaser? Why didn't you have these boundaries? Knowing these people are hurting you, they're not good for you. Why do you still keep showing up and being around them? Because you want to be accepted and loved as human being. That's what we all crave. But to put this together, to the amount of pain and turmoil it took just to put that piece of information together to say, right, this is where I was going wrong, because there was something lacking within me. The reason I put up with this, the reason I didn't challenge certain things even during the marriage, the way my in-laws were disrespecting me, because I was that people pleaser. And remember this, what I say is, they only responded to the energy I was projecting. And when you're projecting prey energy, you bring out the predator in other people. But do you see what it took just to understand just these things about myself and society as a whole? And then I realized I was operating completely wrong. And ultimately, once I went through so much pain, when this moment of clarity came, and that's when I entered the journey ultimately, as you know, and that's when I started social media. I thought I need to take to the tools that we have available, which is social media. But you understand, so when you go through all this pain and trauma, sometimes now you look back here and I think it was meant to be. This was part of my journey. In order to bring all of this to the surface, it needed great pain. It needed a shock to the system. And if this is what it took, then so be it. It was God's will. I accept my fate. I'll do my best, but I leave it all in His hand. I lighten my burden and give it to Him. Because if you truly have faith in the unseen, in these moments when your faith is tested, is when things are going wrong. When all is well and good, perhaps it's easy to have faith. When the world is against you, when your soul is being crushed, when the world is crushing you into the ground, and to have the courage to continue, your faith has to be strong because you've got to be able to believe in the unseen and think, I can overcome. Let me just keep going, you know? So, I mean, like I said, there's been a lot of learnings throughout this journey that has brought us here to this point. But ultimately, this is what I want fathers to take away and understand, that do not let this moment pass you by just as a painful experience. This could potentially be the greatest opportunity you will ever have. This will be the opportunity or the shock that you needed to start taking yourself and life seriously and understand that you can have a greater impact on the world. You can leave a greater legacy on the planet. Do you know what I mean? And whereas where we, I would say I am now and I can see where you are is regardless of the situation there with my kids, like I said, you know the logo, they're my kids right there. Regardless of that, and I love them and miss them, and if they're watching, I will continue to persevere and do my best. Whereas that situation was like the weight of the world I was carrying, now it's not that big. It's a situation that is over there that we're dealing with this in the background. Because potentially I have grown larger than that. I have outgrown that rather than that situation was too large for me to contain. I am bigger than that situation. There's a greater purpose. And perhaps in order for greater things, that was the sacrifice that was needed. So I mean, there's a lot you can take from this. There's a lot you can take from this journey, but don't let this moment and opportunity pass you by. Take it as an opportunity to truly reflect on who you are. What are your values? Why have you been living and projecting this energy or being a certain type of person your whole life? Because we are just a byproduct of the environment, upbringing, culture, people, what you saw, what you heard, what you watched. You are just a product of all of these things. So this is an opportunity to evaluate, do I really believe in this? Are these truly my values, or is this just what I know? Is this what my mother gave to me or my father gave me because I heard it? Do I really want to live like this? Why am I living like this? Why have I been putting up with this? Why have I not been taking my life seriously? So this is an opportunity, and ultimately, as much as there are many horror stories like mine and yours out there, there are success stories as well. And I say to fathers, you do your bit. You show up, You leave it all in the ring. You take the bull by the horns, you get in the driver's seat, you take control of this situation, your case, your documents, your paperwork, and you leave it all in the ring. Because whatever happens in your heart, you know you did everything within your power and you did your best, and then leave the rest to God. It's as simple as. I spoke to a father on a podcast the other day, right? Yeah. He hadn't seen his daughter for 8 years. He saw her last when she was 8. On the podcast, he revealed that I've made contact with my daughter, managed to make contact. We're now talking on the phone. She's now 16, 8 years later. And he went through a lot of, he explained what he went through on the podcast. And I thought, anything is possible, guys. Anything is possible. And look at you now, John. I see your kids, man. I've seen the pictures of your kids, your Instagram. I've been following you for a while. And I think you've got a little boy now as well, haven't you? You've got a little son as well. So there's four in the family camp. And
Yeah.
God has blessed you with three beautiful daughters, man. So you've lost, it's not nice, you've lost a daughter, but God has blessed you with four beautiful children. And for your one daughter, he's blessed you with three beautiful daughters. And honestly, I see pictures of you and you're playing with them and you're doing stuff on their birthdays. And it's so, like that right there, having that anchor, that family, your kids, man. I mean, just the thought of it, sometimes I crave that, that family unit, because that gives you a structure. See, since I've lost mine, men in them, so middle-aged men, when you lose that family unit, that structure, you're like a nomad. You don't belong anywhere. Fathers are just drifting here to there, especially sort of strong community that we come from, the Asian community, the Muslim community. Most men, they say, are married with their children. When you don't have that anchor, we're nomads. We don't fit in anywhere. We don't belong anywhere. And it's a blessing, man. You've got three beautiful kids. Honestly, you've got your little son as well. There's four of them. You're truly blessed, man. So as bad as things are, you're truly blessed, my friend. Honestly. So never forget this. Never forget that. And you're a great father. I see the effort that you put in with your kids and everything you do, man. So as far as all that pain and turmoil, God has still rewarded you for doing what you've done. You've been through the mills. He's rewarded you with a beautiful family, man. Just embrace that and cherish these moments, because I look back now at the times I miss with my daughters and something, and I think, why didn't I spend more time? Because listen, that time, that lost time, you will never get back. And that's the only things that I sometimes haunt me, that why didn't I spend more time with them? And the stuff that you do, why didn't I do more of that? Read more books with them, just sit there talking to them more. Now we did stuff, but I was so focused with the conditioning and the programming.
Mm-hmm.
You're a man, go to work, provide security, head down like a dog, the great female con. You just head down, work like a slave, enslaved to the system. And I
Yeah.
miss the true beauty and the blessings of those moments, man, honestly. So,
It's so much
so yeah,
important that you said, for this to, I wasn't expecting this with this talk today, and it's come out so well, because for the viewers out there to remember the value and understand, I'm saying, who I'm talking to right now, and his words and the spirit working through him, to really let that sink in, listen to this multiple times, everything he said, because this is years and years and years of grinding on these thoughts and working on this skill and developing into this person, into this leader. Farook here, and it's perfect, because it's turned around on, this is an interview, it turned into and it's a small part of the story, an interview on me, and we're listening to someone who has gained all this power. And I tell you, we haven't even touched it, but what he's been through will
no,
shock you as well. And to see where you can develop if you give yourself the chance to keep going. And there's so many
yes,
different things you covered. One of them, I'll say, is things can turn around at any moment. The father that had 8 years and finally got some contact, okay? Anything can happen. And, we always pray for not to be a disaster to take that, but anything can happen at any moment. If you find yourself in a hole because you've given up mentally, maybe you turn to alcohol, drugs, it could even be living in a bush. You don't want to be there, in case something happens. You're always a father. You don't haven't seen them for years. You're
Yes.
always a father. Every minute of the day, every decision that you make, the position that you sacrifice to be in, to say, I'm going to be ready. I'm going to be in the best position I can. I'm always ready. I'm here for you. It's so important. And then this is it's a sad part. It's sad and beautiful, the risk of going through it once and then thinking, if I get into another relationship, I could be ruined. If I have children in that, I don't know if I could handle it if it happened
Mm.
again. And that is scary, and it's not fair, but there is. And I'll tell you a great point that was brought up is, if you've been through this, and I would testify, and what Farook said is he wished he'd spend more time. And we all, every parent, every good parent always does, and let me tell you that after going through that, the time that I spend with my kids now, after knowing this, that how much I soak in every moment, because I know
You're present. Yes.
what can
Be
happen to
present.
anyone at any time. That how
Yes.
good of a partner I am, the increase in how I am attentive to my wife, or attentive to any emotional situation, to where
Mm.
if I hadn't been through everything I'd been through, I would not have made my family stronger and stronger and stronger how it is now. And how much
Mm.
I
Mm.
appreciate every moment with my kids, and they get 100 times the father. I was an amazing father from day one for my first child, and I'll tell you, even if you're on weekend visits, make you don't have to have all the pressure to be a Disneyland weekend dad, but just if
Be
you're
present.
at the park, be present.
Be present. That's the key. And this is what I'm saying, because look, most people generally drift through life dwelling on the past or worrying about the future, but to soak up this moment now, to be present is to truly live. And this is what I'm saying. Understanding the bigger lessons of all of this. And even when you said about like it could happen again, this the key is in life. One thing I've learned is you cannot control anything external. The only control we all have, not me, we all of us, we can only control what we think and what we do. So take command of that. You take command of that, and you take command of your life, and you live on purpose. You live with intent. You take relative action to grow in all the right areas. And the energy you will project will take care, and that will take care of how other people treat you itself.
Mhm.
Do you see what I'm trying to say? The external will take care of itself if you focus on what you think and what you do, and you push yourself in the right directions to elevate and grow. And like I said, before we became victims to all of this, because we were projecting a certain energy, people please, we were lacking something. We needed validation from the wife, from the missus, from the in-laws, from friends, from maybe even our children. The key is when you don't seek validation externally, because you validate yourself through your own actions and behaviors. When your self-image raises, when the higher self comes to the surface, you will then project very differently. You will attract differently. People will treat you differently. And that's what I'm saying. The bigger message is you focus on that, because in life, that's the two things we all have control of. And this is what I'm saying, even about the children. If you look, if you live within that paradigm of the higher self, because you've done the work, you've elevated in all of these areas, then you will ultimately become the prize. People want to be around you. People want to be with you. Your kids will look up to you. And like I said, if you're in the trenches now, look, and like just to put everything what John is saying into context, what you just said, you got to go back, look at my first videos to compare where I'm now. You got to, and I look back sometimes and I think, my God, is that how I looked? Is that how I spoke? Was that the shape I was in? I couldn't string a sentence together, the awkwardness on camera. And then I realized, how did I allow myself to even be like this? I don't get it. How? I don't understand. So, like I said, there's a lot to take from this. But John, you're 100% right. And be present with your children now. You can truly appreciate the beauty and the blessings you have now, you know, and truly be in gratitude and embrace those moments. Honestly, I mean, I think we're gonna have to sit down again, John, to really now
Oh yeah.
dissect
I think
this.
there's
Is
so
the
much
yeah,
more to cover, and I like this is why I said this is one of my favorite people and opportunities is because of the development that the man that Farook has become and continues to grow more and more into every day is so valuable. Listen to these words. I can listen to him talk on all these subjects all day, especially when I'm feeding back and forth and I give some of these experience because I've probably been through one of the worst that's out there.
yeah,
Definitely not the worst, but pretty bad. And it's just so
it's
helpful
bad.
to hear and the impact that it turns around and starts mixing up and spreading out to the world for us, taking the time, the bravery to be here. Because one thing I know is hard for, I guarantee for Farouk and myself is like another father said to me yesterday. He said, you have all my support, but I can't handle it. I have to put I'm an ostrich, with my head in the sand because it's very bad PTSD to even follow this. So when I
That's
look at
right.
another
Yeah,
father's story, I'm making a short Instagram reel for content. It's difficult, some of the stories from other fathers, and then there's attacks from all the women out there or the men that are kind of brainwashed into this other side.
mm.
There's a lot that's going to be involved with this. It's going to continue to be involved. It's difficult, but it's worth it. And I want to say too, before we go into wrapping up, is Farouk has a YouTube channel. He has Instagram. He has it's Disqualified Dads. He does a weekly Sunday live call. And he's in the UK, but anyone in the United States, anywhere around the world, it is highly worth listening to. You get a difference in some of the law, but really it's the same process.
Very
And
similar. Yeah, the
Farouk's
structure is all
words,
very similar from what I've seen. Yeah,
very close. And Farouk's words are so valuable to listen to. One of the most inspiring people I've ever heard. And the lessons that come out for everything that's going on, this is always happening. I'm so happy to have him here today. And his story is something we're going to have to cover, probably get into more detail. And I know that there are a lot of stories. A lot of us can't
yeah,
really, you got to be careful. I'm on eggshells. I have to be
mm,
careful.
mm.
Farouk has to be careful. But as far as getting to that story, we want to spend more time, do this again and talk about it. But we need to subscribe. I'm going to link his channels and to subscribe there. And Farouk is a coach. And so his contacts are all going to be available. We need even donation contacts to help support Farouk's platform is a huge thing. It's a big thing about donations with American Fathers is supporting my platform, his platform, our ability to keep showing up and spending more time on
Mm.
this, but then getting into guests, and even Farouk as a guest, any of my guests to say some of them are going to be homeless. They're going to need maybe a night in a hotel,
Yeah,
maybe a meal.
yeah,
Maybe they're going to need to be taught a little bit of a skill for a job that some other fathers can
yeah,
say, hey, I'll help you with this. The connection
exactly.
here that can happen. And so that's why I want to help and this is an interview where there's every link available is going to be here. Please follow, join up, and maybe we'll do a joint YouTube post on this, or he's going to be around. Farouk is going to be around many, many times, like a lot of these fathers. He is a coach too. Even if you're in the United States, he is absolutely worth spending your time with and listening to him. As you can see, the mentorship here is just completely invaluable, priceless. Um, and he's doing more too. He's taking care of his physical fitness every day. He's sharing that, and he's going to one of the things I'm definitely jealous of is I want to go get into it on the mats and do jujitsu and stuff myself because it's a
Yeah,
gentle sport. You definitely can get hurt, but to just keep pushing yourself and developing your mind and what it does to you and your life and what you can provide for your kids and stuff in the future. Just his relationships he's building, and like I said in the beginning, the smiles I've seen on Farouk's face and the spirit coming out of him in this interview is it's immeasurable because and he said go back to his first videos on YouTube on Instagram, just like all of us, and we can feel like this maybe in the middle of the night still to this day, feel completely defeated. And
yeah,
he's still talking. He turned way earlier than I did. Farouk was fresh, and he turned around no place to live, and he's trying to hold his job and work and his livelihood together, and he still turned around and had words for people right off the bat, and now he's turned into I hate to use the wrong word, but it's almost like a prophet in the space of fatherhood and helping coaching other fathers. He's at the top of the world and will continue to grow in that space. And he's someone to watch and listen to, as you can hear in this interview. It will save lives. It will save you in those moments where I sat there before and I felt like I didn't want to hurt myself or anything, but I was just like, like I don't even feel like breathing right now. I just sit there and just kind of just
Yeah,
almost
yeah,
feel like I was just disappearing, and many times in the past. And Farook's helping, and that's what I want to continue to do is help get you through those moments and realize, and even in maybe 2017, I was in San Diego. I had I was sleeping in my car. I didn't even have a storage unit yet. I had two little bags in the back and I was Uber driving. You couldn't tell. I had them kind of in the very back and I put a blanket over them. So people's bags for the
mm,
airport stuff would just kind of be there. It's a very pristine, clean car. You didn't know. I
mm,
hardly told anybody ever. I'd lay the seats down, sleep. I'd shower at the gym. And actually, I was still, fitness is an important part. It's always been there for me. I didn't realize it. It was kind of naive to want to be Mr. Olympia, but I accidentally kept going to the gym and eating healthy, and it got me through over a decade of this family court hell.
mm.
I was sleeping in my car. I would get rice and the hot food from the grocery store, some chicken, some potatoes. I would drink egg whites in the morning. That's a little bit extra,
Mm.
but and Farouk's doing the same thing. It helps.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I'll say to guys is this, right? Just to add to that, right? So look, guys, when I say exercise, the key is this. Like for some fathers, it's difficult some mornings to even get off the bed and onto your feet takes tremendous strength. The key with the exercise is you want to change your state. You change your state, you change your physiology, you change your state, you change your frequency, and then it gives you a different type of that frequency will give you hope. Hope will then determine your action. If you change your emotion, it will determine your action. Your action will determine your outcome. So when I say exercise, it could be just go for a walk in the park. Start walking. Some people they love hitting go do the weights if you're about it. If you can't do anything, like I said, just go for a walk.
mhm.
Little walk, all of these things, because you're constantly controlling your state. Because the job is you just need to get for the next few hours, survive that day, survive that night. I remember it clearly, guys. It's not easy, it's a tough old road.
Yeah.
But the key is you need to survive because you need to keep your eyes on the prize. Remember, the key factor is you need to survive for your child, for your children. So even though we're hurting, we're victims of this system, you need to park that to one side because at this moment you're a father and you need to continue pushing to give your child the best opportunity to be present in their life. You need to just survive and keep going. That's your job. When you're in the trenches and you're going through this bit, this stage, you just need to survive. That is your job. Hope, faith, and belief. Just survive one step at a time, one foot in front of the other, and just keep going. And eventually, like I said, it's an emotional roller coaster every day. You're going on different rides. If you don't belt up and brace up, you will not survive this until you get to a stage where you're strong enough, you're on the ground, and we walk you out of that theme park, and you can now manage on your own.
Yeah.
Even though you're in this chaos, you can manage on your own, but you need to get through these 6, 8 months. However, you need to just hustle your way through and keep going. Like I said, we're going to go into this. What we'll do is next week, John, we'll sit down again
Yeah.
and we'll talk about the journey and the mechanics of how to survive this journey, and we'll move on to like where it can take you, how to survive, how to get through, and where to navigate life going forward from this. Because look, I ain't seen my kids. A lot of people say this to me. 4 years, I've had no contact. The last time I saw them was eight. They were 8, 6, and 3. Eldest daughter's now 12, so it's 12, 10, and the little man, I don't even know, 6 or 7 now, 7, I think now, yeah. 4 years, I don't even know what they look like. They were pretty small when I last saw them. I don't even know what they sound like, nothing. But if you look at me, people don't know that I'm into, like they say you look too good, you're all right, like and thank God it's a blessing. I'm in good shape, man. I'm in good spirits, regardless, ultimately. And you know what you just said, John. I just want to touch on that before we wrap up. When you said, I was dreaming, my dream was to become Mr. Olympia. It was silly. No, it wasn't. Before your children, you were someone. You had ambitions, you had dreams. Find out who you were again. Before all of this, who were you? Who were you? What dreams and passions and interests and hobbies did you have? You were someone before all of this. So do not feel guilty for wanting to chase your own dreams. Do not feel guilty in doing things that bring joy to your life. Because when we say this, we're self-sabotaging, saying, I don't deserve this. You feel guilty for chasing your own dream. What does that say about you? Because you don't think you deserve it, because you've been conditioned by the world to think that you're being selfish if you do something for yourself. Do you see the problem? The
Yeah.
conditioning is on so many layers, and this is what I'm talking about. We got to strip all of this back. Rule number one now in your life, when you're going through this, the first thing, there's one thing I want all fathers to embrace. The most important person in your life is you. You come first before anything and anyone, including the situation you're in now with your children. Because if you're good, you're in a good place, you elevate, you grow, then the people around you can benefit. But rule number one is you put yourself first, you start valuing yourself, self-worth, and self-love. This is where it all starts. And when you start changing your self-image about how you see yourself, then you'll act and behave differently. But this is where it has to start first. Self-worth, self-love. And say, it's okay for me to want to do this. It's okay for me to have these dreams and ambitions and passions. Because what's happened is life, government, community, whatever you want to call it, men have been programmed to just self-sacrifice and give and be enslaved to everyone and everything but themselves. Men have been made to feel guilty for wanting to put themselves first. When someone says to me that you're selfish, I take that as a compliment. That is a compliment. I was like, I agree with you. You damn right I am. I come first because I'm worth it. I believe in myself. I love myself. I should come first. I should put myself first. When someone said, do you want to come out today? Or you've got a gym plan, you've got a training session planned or something. Most people go, I'll keep my mates happy. I'll go, nah, bro, I come first. My session comes first. My goals and dreams and ambitions, they come first. So rule number one right now, fathers, one thing you should realize right now is you need to start putting yourself first. From today, you're in the trenches. You start today. You put yourself first. You put yourself before anything and everyone else right now. That's where it starts. Start telling yourself, and your subconscious will see this. And that's when you start elevating. That's how you start seeing yourself differently, raising your self-image, your internal paradigm, your thermostat that limits everything and governs everything you do. So let's start with this. Let's end with that, and we'll continue on this, and we'll talk about my journey. Next week, John, we'll sit down again, record another episode, and I'll tell you my journey, guys, and the tools and mechanisms and everything I've learned throughout this space and why I say all roads lead to self-improvement. We're going to go into this. There's a lot to talk about, and we'll chop it up.
Yeah.
We just need more time.
Thank you again for being here. For you, I think it's the afternoon, the morning time for me out here in the West Coast of the United States. Again, reminder, I really want everyone, especially if you made it to the end of this, and I'm sure you're blown away by this man that we're talking to, Disqualified Dads, YouTube and Instagram, huge. Is there any other links? Did you start a website yet? Do you have a link for a
Not
website?
yet.
Okay.
No, I don't have a link for a website yet because I've been focused literally 4 years solid on the social media, and my main platform is YouTube because I thought if I focus all my energy into one thing, now the channel is really coming into its own. I've hung it out, we've stuck it out, and this year, hopefully, the YouTube channel is really gonna hopefully take off because I'm niching down properly and
Yeah.
focusing on the message. And once we've got a few things lined up for this year, once these 2 or 3 or 4 things come off, then everything else is going to elevate and grow. Everything else is going to blow up. And I'm going to push this message out there for fathers to give fathers hope and to expose this whole scam, expose all of this, and
We can see it.
ultimately,
We can definitely, if anybody watching this can see that coming and can see the development that's happening right in front of us right here. And I want to ask you, is there any donation links that you have to donate to your platform?
yeah, on my YouTube channel, on the bio of every video, in the description, we have a PayPal link. So if you do look,
Okay.
guys, listen, I've never really asked for money or anything like that. But look, if you want to donate, there's a PayPal link in the description on my YouTube channel in the bio. Any donations are welcome. It goes towards just keeping this all running and hopefully get us to the next level.
Donations are going to be linked here at the top of the, I'm going to pin them at the top of the comments for Farouk's links are all going to be above mine in the same comment. Mine will be below. And yeah, and it's if you see this man, if you're going to support this platform that this man's putting together, is it's flourishing out into so many other places. So this is somebody I want to invest in. I believe you should be invested in. I don't see it as asking or begging for anything. This is a place this is a garden that needs to grow. This is something that I believe God is pushing forward. And that's why I want to bring that up for many people. There's many reasons, but for Farouk to Disqualified Dads, this is a place that needs investment. And so I really encourage that. And then again, on American Father's side, I'm developing with things over here too. I have links as well, but so Saturdays are just free meetings because I may go into like a one-on-one option with people, but I don't ever want to not have a free and open place for fathers because
Yeah,
we've been there homeless, nothing. You have nothing and
yeah,
you need help. I can't turn to
yeah.
someone and say, pay me all this to even talk to me. No, it's Saturdays,
Mm,
you're welcome. I'm doing my best and continue to grow and vetting who shows up, who can actually have access in there, but it is free with a
mm.
group, and I'll lead my own meetings, but there's going to be other guys with so many valuable words, help, jobs,
Yes.
mentorship, other guys that may have money and be able to donate and get you food for the
Mm,
day or help you with your own platform because I encourage everyone who wants to continue with these other fathers pages to support them all. If you're another father's coach, if you're a fitness coach, anything, I'm going to keep promoting everyone no matter what they're doing. There's fathers with food products, fathers with services, fathers who's starting businesses. I have things in development with my Way Prepared company to help you launch a business and to help you scale a business and help you provide your services, do better for you, thrive for you and your family, take care of yourself. Book clubs. I'm hoping. I think probably most likely Farouk is going to be involved where we can maybe discuss one or two books a month, maybe one for the book club.
yeah,
Everybody's there.
yeah.
We'll discuss a book um, as often as we can. Locust Honey, is my links that'll be there for that. It's a book review and book club channel, but it is all linked to American Fathers because it helps with personal development. And then reach out to me for help with launching a business and scaling a business. So what I do, they're all John the Baptist themes. John lived off of locusts
Mm,
and honey. He's a very disciplined man. He's a prophet. He prepared the way for Jesus, and that's why I do way prepared for growing businesses and help set a path for you to find success.
mm,
Iron Reed is fitness coaching. That is something that I already have a payment plan set up for to sign up. And it's just extra. You want to show up another
mm,
meeting with me in a group every week to go over your exercise plan, meal plan, and still let's talk about anything else in your life, especially the fatherhood stuff. There's fitness there with Iron Reed because John the Baptist was an unbreakable reed from the Jordan River. And I
mm.
just resonate with that stuff. And I think it's very good to focus on that. And as Farouk said, it is a huge key to have the faith and release and let God be there for you instead of not believing and not quite understanding. And I've learned, I got all the books, I look for the evidence. God's there, and you can have faith in what God's doing in your life. And this could be the biggest turnaround that you could ever imagine. Keep going. I had nothing in my car, a rainy night, empty bank account, empty gas tank, Uber driver, sleeping in my car, eating a McDonald's cheeseburger, not knowing what's going to happen. 10 years later, I mean, I'm not financially anywhere yet, but I'm married. I have a roof over my head. I still have my books that were in the back of the car with me, you know, a smaller, little tiny stack of books that were valuable to me. I have 4 more children. I have 3 more daughters. They're 3, 4, and 6 years old. I have a son due in 2 months. I wouldn't have imagined that. If I had given up, I had no idea this was coming. So just keep going, and please follow, check these links, reach out to Farook. You can see how valuable he is as a coach to somebody to talk to on a regular basis. You know, my God, he's the real deal. And so I appreciate you for being here today. I can't wait for the next one. If we get in here as soon as another week, that'd be absolutely wonderful. So thank you
Yeah,
for being here.
yeah. No, listen, John, I appreciate you. No, I love you, brother, and I love what you're doing, and this whole community supporting that you're creating. I think in America, the way you're at, just keep on that, like those live streams, and then provide the help and support. Bam, bam, bam. Like just like I'm doing here, that's what you're doing over there. Just keep at it, and appreciate you, honestly.
That's right, you
And thank
guys.
you all for watching. Appreciate all of you.
We'll see you guys on the next one.